We begin this hour with breaking news. Legendary film critic Roger Ebert has died. Just 2 days ago, he blogged about taking a leave of presence from work after he learned he was battling cancer again. And now this. Zuleka Nathu is here with the details about all this information, and this is just breaking in our newsroom right now, and it is quite shocking because we did learn, Zuleka, that in fact he was taking a leave of presence. He was going to focus on just the movies that he was interested in reviewing. So kind of shocking to hear that just 2 days later he in fact has died.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing. Just a couple of days ago, he had posted a blog, and he said that he was receiving radiation treatment, that it was discovered after he had fractured his hip last year. But he actually posted this. He said, "It means I'm not going away. I'll be able at last to do what I've always fantasized about doing, reviewing only the movies I want to review." So it is really hard to believe that this was just a few days ago, and now we're hearing about his death. The first word came from the Chicago Sun-Times, which is the newspaper for which he had been a film columnist for years, since 1967, and they said that it was with a heavy heart that they were making this announcement. He was 70 years old, and for a lot of people, Ebert was the only film critic that they read. As he got older, he only got better. And, you know, he said he actually learned to be a movie critic by reading Mad magazine, because he said often they would show that underneath all the layers, things were often the same, that a lot of things were just being recycled in various formulas. And that's how he tried to then identify various movies. And the thing about his approach to films was that he often did something that was much more relative rather than absolute. He would review a film for the audience that he knew would go to see it, but then he would also do it for the consideration of people as a whole. And that is something that is so difficult to do. He is a Pulitzer Prize winner. He was the first film critic to get that award. He was a journalist, a screenwriter. He was, of course, well known for his film column, but also for the shows that he did about film reviews later on. And it wasn't until 2006 that he had to step back. Complications after surgery meant that he wasn't able to speak because he had had thyroid cancer, and that's when he kind of stepped back from the TV side of things. He continued to review, and as I mentioned, it sounded like he was going to continue to review, even though he had to scale back. He couldn't go to as many movie screenings, which is why he posted that blog I mentioned a few days ago, to be able to try to scale back. We just had no idea that it was this close to the end.
And the Associated Press just quoting him back from an email back in January 2011 when he was diagnosed with cancer that first time, saying, you know, you play the cards you're dealt. What's your choice? I have no pain. I enjoy life. And why should I complain? So incredible to hear that, given what he went through, and that just 2 days ago he was saying, I'm going to continue. I got to scale back a little bit, but he just loved the movie so much that he couldn't imagine stopping. He couldn't imagine actually stopping, and it was just life that actually stopped for him. But it was incredible to see too, Zuleka, and maybe we can talk a little bit about this, just the idea of he was the penultimate film critic. There was now, unfortunately, no one else. There was something about his style that just made people listen.
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, the style was very much something that spoke to almost everybody that heard him or that read him. And it always helps, obviously, having a show for a number of years, he was able to give that identification. People could see him, they knew who he was. He already had a voice in, newspaper, but it was something that people just felt they could identify with. And they were thorough, the reviews were interesting, and they often reflected what people were thinking or what people ended up feeling after they saw the same movie that he had critiqued. Interesting, just a couple of the movies that he did give 4 stars to, because, you always kind of wonder what actually, made it for him. Movies like Superman, American Beauty, he gave 4 stars to, but even that system, he didn't say was an absolute system. It was very relative to a lot of different factors, including what he thought the audience that it was geared towards would actually get from it. You know, and he said, even at the end of the day, I'm not going to tell you not to go see a film, because it's always better to get out and do something than not at all. But, you know, this is a guide for you, which I think is, you know, kind of nice as a reviewer. He also knew that, yeah, he had a lot of power, but at the end of the day, the choice is yours. He can only be a guide. And I think that was something that a lot of people sensed, which is why people really liked him and listened to what he had to say.
Zuleka, thank you. Zuleka Nathu.